Howdy, this is King David. Tune in to the On The Go podcast with Jacob and James every Monday and Friday.
Let's keep it real. You know the deal. Kick your feet up. Relax a little. You've been working hard, paid up all your bills. Now you know what time it is. Netflix and chill.
I'm still watching The Bear. I'm still trying to finish The Bear. But Khadija and I, over the Christmas, like New Year's holidays and stuff, we started watching the live-action adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho. Have you ever heard of it?
Never heard of it. It's an anime show, isn't it?
It's anime.
Oh, that's why.
It's anime, way back in the day. I mean, probably around the same time that like Dragon Ball Z was in the Majin Buu saga.
Okay.
You know, that's how old it is, right? And
like 90s?
yeah, like 90s, early 2000s. Okay. And Yu Yu Hakusho holds a special place in my heart because I would come home after middle school and watch it. And every day, like, so they had an arc. I'm not explaining this well. Yu Yu Hakusho is an anime about a boy who he gets run over by a truck saving another little boy. Damn. Right? He's like the badass kid in school. He's always skipping class. He's always doing bad things or whatever. And people are like, "Oh, that Yusuke Urameshi, he's nothing." Right?
You make this sound so joyous. It should be so sad. His
mom's an alcoholic. His dad's not around. You know,
great show.
Yeah, great show. Anyway, so so he's walking home from skipping school one day, and this kid's like playing soccer or whatever in the middle of the street. Truck comes barreling down the road. Yusuke, our main character, pushes the kid out the way, gets hit by the truck, dies.
Sidebar: Why is the kid he doesn't pay attention out there?
You know what? Anime dads are not around a lot, James.
God, man, I see that.
They're just, anime dads are not existent enough to teach their kids not to play
in
the middle of the road.
So the other poor young man had to die because his kid and his father won't pay attention.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you know. But anyway, so he dies, he goes to the spirit world, and then he gets met by basically a Grim Reaper, right? But she's like this cute, like, blue-haired chick, because anime. She explains to him, she's like, "Oh, we didn't think you were gonna die. Like, we hadn't planned for your death because we didn't see you being selfless enough to push this little kid out the way. So your death was entirely unplanned. This is entirely an accident, right?" And so their solution is like, "Okay, well, we're gonna make you a spirit detective. So you're gonna go and fight demons because like demons are constantly trying to get into the human world because back in the day they used to be connected, now they're not."
Kind of like Max Payne a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so before he comes back to life, he's got to convince like all his friends and family that he's still alive, right? So because first of all, the authorities want to burn his body or bury it or whatever, and so he's got to do that. But eventually, he comes back to life. He becomes a spirit detective, and him and his high school rival become besties. And then he meets up with a couple other demons who they're bad, but they're not that bad, and they kind of become this group. Anyway, it's great. It's a great story. When I was a kid, I would come home and I would watch the show, and I would watch the show during a specific part.
This was on cable?
This was on cable. This was Toonami.
Oh,
like
Toonami.
Cartoon
Okay.
Network Toonami.
Okay, yeah.
Back when Toonami was like in the middle of the day after school.
Okay.
Before it was on Adult Swim. Yeah.
I don't remember this.
Yeah.
Cause I used to watch Toonami all the time. I never watched this.
Oh yeah, no, this was like the afternoon edition because like they had Toonami on Saturdays, which was like the main Toonami.
Yep.
But then during the day, they actually had like an afternoon version of it.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so this would run, and the parts that I would see are the episodes where they're in this dark tournament. And the dark tournament, the whole point was the demon world being in agreement with like, I guess the human world. They're like, "Hey, we're going to have this tournament, and whoever wins gets control of the demon world." And so it was like this epic tournament, like Yusuke's fighting all these people. They're all fighting all these people. And anyway, it's a great show. That's how I fell in love with the show. Enjoy the show. I read the mangas like growing up. My best friend Joel, it's one of his favorite shows. He had the mangas. He would let me borrow it in high school, and I read it. But anyway, so they made a live action adaptation of it.
Ooh.
And historically, live action adaptations of animes
have been awful.
Not so well.
Except for One Piece.
One Piece came out very well because the creator and the writer behind One Piece was on set every day and very heavily involved in the casting process and the writing process.
Which is what you need.
He wouldn't leave set sometimes. Or he would tell them, like, you have to redo the scene because you didn't get the emotion right. Or, like, you didn't do the scene as I depicted it. Like, it needs to be redone. Because One Piece, I mean, that thing's still going on. It's like a 25-year-old anime. I think this year is its 25th-year-old 25th year anniversary. And so he's like, this thing's been going on long enough. Like, you can't diminish my story.
I agree.
That's definitely a special case. But, unfortunately, the Netflix adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho kind of did what Cowboy Bebop did. And have you seen the Cowboy Bebop adaptation?
I've almost seen clips of it. It did not interest me at all.
So what they did with Cowboy Bebop was Cowboy Bebop is a short anime.
Yeah.
About 26 episodes long. You can knock it out in an afternoon. What they did with the Netflix show is they basically took the spark notes of the main plot points from Cowboy Bebop. And they made that into like an 8-episode season. And then they set it up for a second season. So they did the main story, right? The actual main story of Cowboy Bebop inside of 8 episodes, but they set it up for a second season because there's like a whole bunch of material they cut out in between, right? They introduced like 2 characters at the very end of the first season that should have been on the adventure with them the whole time. And Yu Yu Hakusho kind of does that same thing. They had a solid first episode. Like, first episode was so solid. Like, they did the whole, he gets run over by a truck. Really gruesome, too. Like, when he got hit, like, you saw the body roll.
Oh, nice.
Blood pouring out the face. It was gruesome.
Man, maybe I might pay attention just to see that part.
Right. And it started out great because you had that, and then you had him, trying to get back alive, and it showed his, like, resurrection. And the way they did it in the show, actually, I think they handled it really well because in the books and the anime, it's like 2 or 3 episodes in the anime, and I think the books is like the first 20 chapters of just him trying to come back to life. To condense it down to like an hour, I think that worked. Second episode was still promising because, okay, cool, we're going on to the next thing. Everything seems so accurate now. The third episode is when they start skipping stuff.
So basically, for this show, and the whole thing in a nutshell, they're speeding up stuff. They're skipping plot points.
Thank you, yes.
And that's what they're doing. They're skipping plot points, and that's why this show has is issues, which they do that with a lot of shows.
They do.
Which is why I don't like some of these cases when you adapt shows or cartoon or animes into live action, because you always end up skipping plot points.
Right.
Always.
And I mean, One Piece has proven you don't have to do that.
You don't.
Right? So we already have pretty much almost the golden child of anime live action and adaptations. And then right after that, you're going to do this.
Yeah, it's like watching Star Wars, and they put together those fan films on YouTube,
right? Which
are good,
right?
I would rather watch them over the movies,
right?
But they're also sometimes like, you can kind of skip plot points,
right,
in certain situations,
right? And I feel like I should be more angry about it, but I'm past the point where I get upset over these adaptations. I'm just trying to enjoy something, and so like we watched it. Khadija enjoyed it, and from the perspective of someone who didn't watch the anime and like this is how I got her into it, I think it worked out pretty well because she still got the gist of the story and she was like, oh, I actually enjoyed it. So
well, that's because she doesn't have the same history.
She doesn't have the history
like you do,
right? But
for a casual, they love it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be so the optimistic me in this is like, okay, cool. They didn't adapt it 100%. But they adapted it enough to get somebody who's never seen it or read it interested in it to where they might actually pick up the books and watch the anime with me now.
Which I think that's what they were going for. They were going for that type of audience.
And while they skipped through a bunch of the like main plot points, the action was solid. And the final episode of the show was very good. Almost straight up like a live action anime. Like you got the villain evil monologuing the whole time. You've got him just throwing everybody else around because he's so strong. Like you got the tension. You got all the
they got everything else
potatoes,
right. Yeah, they got the meat potatoes of everything else right.
Yeah, and so the final episode was just like phenomenal to me because I'm like, wow, you really hit the mark with this episode because I mean you hit all the things that make it good. It's just. I can tell they were doing this to set up where it's like, okay, if we get a second season, like Cowboy Bebop, if we get a second season, we'll do the other bits of the story that we skipped over.
Which I'm pretty sure they probably won't get a second season.
They probably won't. And I mean, Cowboy Bebop's not getting one.
No, that's it.
And so that's kind of the upsetting part where it's like, I get where you guys are going for, but maybe if you just would have stayed accurate, you could have been able to tell. Also, Yu Yu Hakusho is not a long story. It's not a 25-year-old tale that's still going. It's not like a Dragon Ball Z where it's They're still doing iterations of it. Like Yu Yu Hakusho it's done.
Which I've been stopped watching Dragon Ball Z years ago.
Right. It's done. It's finished. The story's been told, and it's never been touched again. There hasn't been Yu Yu Hakusho Part 2 where the kids or something are doing stuff now. It's literally you watch the series or you read the 20 books, and that's it. So it's like you guys could have really taken your time to make a better show, but you did this. And again, the show's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's just
they skip certain points, key points in the show.
It suffers the live action adaptation curse that's been going on.
Even it's on Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix production.
Heard nothing about it.
Yeah,
heard nothing about it.
I've seen articles about it, which have actually been saying nice things about it.
Yeah.
So that's surprising.
I definitely feel your passion about the show,
yeah.
and that's how I feel about a lot of shows that adapt movies and stuff like that. I think Scott Pilgrim did a TV show for it on Netflix. It actually turned out pretty good. So in some cases you can get it right, in some cases you can.
Right, and I mean, well, my opinion on the Scott Pilgrim cartoon, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But it's like they just redid the movie, or they redid the story.
Sort of, kind of.
They redid the story, right? They got all the voice actors and stuff back to do the story all over again.
They did, but they also explained a lot more.
Did they?
Yeah. They made sure the show the boyfriends, all the ex-boyfriends, showed them the other side of the story.
Okay.
They, in so many cases, in Scott Pilgrim, you had the ex-boyfriends that just, they're all out villains.
Oh, they just show up and get their butt kicked
and
by
that's
Scott
it.
Pilgrim.
But in the show, it shows you each ex-boyfriend and what they went through with that certain person and why they turned into this evil person.
Okay.
Which that's why I like.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I like from the outside looking in, it just kind of seemed like, okay, you're doing a more accurate version of the movie based on the book. So you're doing the same art style. And I get where they were going for. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch the same story again.
No, it's not the same story. It definitely shows a lot more breadth of characters, which is what you're supposed to do when you do these live action adaptations or whatever, cartoons.
Yeah.
Whenever you do this stuff, give something different to the light. It's the same thing we've been talking about with Disney all the time.
Yeah.
With these live action reboots.
Yeah.
So in that case, I definitely feel you're passionate about the show. Hopefully people still watch it regardless of what,
I think they should.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a bad show. I think outside of like having knowledge about like how the story is, I still think it's a decent show. It was still entertaining. It was still, it still had action. It had the spirit, no pun intended, but it didn't quite keep that same story.
So what would you give the rating for this show? The whole show. What rating system are we getting?
I'd give it a 6 out of 10 spirit guns.
6 out of 10 spirit guns, huh?
Yeah, I'd say 6 out of 10.
All right.
Because, I mean, while they rushed the story, they still tried to like do the characters accurately to how they are, almost to a fault. Because I don't know, some of the face acting wasn't good.
Yeah.
Or even some of the costume design for like some of the characters, like other forms and stuff, were like, okay, that's kind of cheesy. But the action was good, and I think, like I said, the last episode and the first episode, I think, were the most solid episodes there were.
Nice.
So, I don't know. I had a good time with it. Also, like, I'm just in this phase where I'm trying not to
overreact to everything.
Overreact, just be upset about things that don't really matter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course. I mean,
it's a show and entertain me.
But it's also good to have an opinion.
Yeah.
If you're critical of a show, how could you ever expect things to get better?
You're all right. And I do wish they did it better, but I'm not going to sit here and rage about it. You know what I mean?
Because on another episode, not this one, but we could talk about the fact that, because I really don't watch anime. I never have, I never will. But at the same time, I have been seeing stories about anime video games and anime communities like, you guys deserve better.
Yeah.
And it's time, kind of like Star Wars universe and fan base. You deserve better.
Yeah.
And it's time to stop just accepting crap.
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely understand where you're coming from.
It's what the superhero fan base went through in the early 2000s.
Early
right?
2000s, yeah.
Like we just had a point where it's like, this is our adaptations. And then the first Iron Man came out, and the first Thor came out, and the first Captain America came out.
Get better.
And all of a sudden it was like,
yeah.
Oh wow, we're here. We're faithful adaptations.
If you keep accepting trash,
yeah,
you won't get good stuff.
Yeah, and now we're on a decline because it got so good. But then the studios got lazy.
Yep.
So now we're on the decline of like, well, now the latest Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, just see how it is the anime.
Yeah.
Anime community is very big and large.
Yeah.
If you keep accepting stuff in the video games, the video game world, they've done horribly in.
Video game anime adaptations are never
They're terrible.
that great. Yeah.
They're terrible. So, yeah, we can get into another episode. But, yeah, I like your review for the show.
Thank you.
Hopefully people still watch it.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. You gave it 6 out of 10 spirit guns.
I give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
6 out of 10. So